47-year-old Benjamin Hall, a teacher at Woodward Middle School in Oklahoma, has been arrested after being accused of molesting school children. Parents of the student said they reported the physical education teacher Benjamin Hall's activities to the assistant principal because the school's head principal, Sarah Hall, is the accused teacher's wife. The parents of the student said, however, there was no follow-up. Complaints were brought to the school's attention as early as 2017, but the student said that Benjamin was touching them inappropriately since his first year at the school in 2012. Benjamin is said to have often slapped female students' buttocks with a ruler or his hand and made comments of a sexual nature. One student reported he told her he just wanted to see how well it bounced back when he struck her buttocks. Other students reported that he'll stand behind them while he had them stretch, but he wouldn't let them change out of skirts or dresses for class. Woodward Police Captain Darren Nevertell said that students complained. They didn't see anything coming of it. Parents complained. Didn't see anything coming of it, adding that he didn't know why the behaviour wasn't reported to police. Benjamin was also the school softball coach for a time. One former player told investigators that Benjamin cupped her breast, and another said he put his hand on her upper thigh, making her so uncomfortable she quit her senior year. On Thursday, the 4th of January 2024, Benjamin was arrested at his home and charged with 7 counts of lewd acts to a child. He was booked into the Woodward County Jail, but was promptly released after posting a $100,000 bond. Police said they believe there are more victims and encouraged them to come forward. The school district said it has put Benjamin on administrative leave. The investigation into the matter continues. A man is behind bars for fatally shooting his estranged wife outside a grocery store where she worked. At 11:11 p.m. on Saturday the 6th of January, authorities responded to a parking lot of Giant Food at 3530 Sugarloaf Parkway at Urbana, Maryland on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found a woman deceased at the scene with gunshot wounds. The victim was identified as 33-year-old Tanisha Butler, who was an employee at Giant Food. Authorities said the shooting happened just after the store closed at 11 p.m. Detectives spoke with witnesses and obtained video surveillance from the shopping centre, as well as neighbouring homes, and identified Frederick Owusu-Saki of Walkersville, Maryland as the suspect, who had fled the scene in his car. Within 3 hours of the shooting, investigators located Frederick in his vehicle and arrested him without incident. During a quick search of his car, deputies found a handgun on the front seat and an assault rifle in the back seat. Investigators said that Frederick was an estranged husband of the victim, and the pair were going through a divorce, and that there was a history of protective orders and stalking by Frederick. Frederick was booked into the Frederick County Adult Detention Center on charges of murder. The investigation into the matter continues. 43-year-old Nicholas Ken is behind bars for fatally shooting another man following a car crash. At around 7:30 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January, authorities received multiple 911 calls about an accident at the intersection of Interstate 20 and South Main Street in Weatherford, Texas. When officers arrived on scene, they found a 44-year-old man deceased with a gunshot wound. Investigators said that Nicholas and the victim, whose name has not been released, were involved in a car crash, and they got into an altercation. During the fight, Nicholas shot and killed the other man. Nicholas of Greenville, Tennessee was arrested that night and booked into the Parker County Jail. On Saturday the 6th of January, he was released on a $250,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 36-year-old Samantha Moore is behind bars after a 17-month-old child was found living in deplorable conditions. On the 28th of December, narcotics investigators with the Vicksburg Police Department conducted a welfare check at a mobile home in Lowland Road in Vicksburg, Mississippi, where Samantha and the child lived. During the investigation, the baby was found in uninhabitable conditions without sources of food or water. The baby appeared to not have been bathed for several weeks due to the dirty clothing and the child's appearance. Drug paraphernalia and drug residue were in the direct presence of the child, who police said had not received medical care in quite some time. While questioned, Samantha admitted to smoking meth and marijuana in front of the child on multiple occasions. Child Protective Services were called and placed the baby with family members. On the 4th of January, Vicky was arrested at a residence and booked into the Warren County Jail on a charge of felony child abuse. On the 5th of January, a judge set a bond at $250,000 on the condition that she has no contact with her child or any other minor children. The investigation into the matter continues. A man is behind bars for raping 2 young girls. On Sunday the 7th of January, 31-year-old Jonathan Gold of 1250 Beale Lane in Wheelersburg, Ohio, was arrested after authorities received a 911 call from a woman reporting the sexual assault of 2 juveniles under the age of 10. The caller claimed that her daughter and one other juvenile were the victims of the assault. Detectives from the Scioto County Sheriff's Office and Special Victims Unit responded promptly to initiate an investigation. Interviews with victims and witnesses led to the identification of Jonathan Gold as a suspect. Authorities went to Jonathan's apartment and executed a search of the residence, which yielded evidence related to the rapes. Jonathan was taken into custody and charged with 10 counts of rape of a child under the age of 10 and 1 count of pandering obscenity involving a minor. He remains held at the Scioto County Jail on a $1,020,000 bond. Authorities said that additional charges are anticipated. The investigation into the matter continues. 38-year-old Vanessa Annalee Ledbetter is behind bars and is accused of killing a 58-year-old man. At 10:31 a.m. on Sunday the 7th of January, authorities responded to the Lakeshore Apartments complex at 16 Lake Drive in Laurel Park, Hendersonville, North Carolina, after receiving an incomplete 911 call while an altercation was taking place. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a deceased white male victim laying in the rear patio area of the residence, with what police described as an obvious fatal wound. At this time, police are not disclosing the type of wound, but said an autopsy will be scheduled shortly. The victim was identified as 58-year-old Robin Bracken, and during the investigation, authorities identified Vanessa as a suspect in his death. Vanessa was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, and is held at the Henderson County Detention Center without bond. Police have not released a motive in the killing, and the relationship between the victim and the suspect has not been disclosed, as the investigation into the matter continues. 70-year-old Michael Joseph Glynn is behind bars for fatally striking his 76-year-old wife Jackie Glynn in the head with a hammer inside the Nashville, Tennessee home and then burying a body in one of their properties in DeKalb County. On the 5th of January, a concerned family reported Jackie missing, who was last seen on New Year's Day at her home at 2418 Abbott Martin Road in Nashville, Tennessee, and stated that she might be driving a 2010 Toyota RAV4. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation issued a silver alert for Jackie. She reportedly suffered from a medical condition that impaired her ability to return safely without assistance. The same day the alert was issued, authorities completed a welfare check at the couple's 7-acre property at 4629 Allen Bend Road in Smithfield, after learning from Joseph during a police interview that he had been there earlier that morning conducting a bonfire. When DeKalb County officers arrived, they met Jackie's son, who was also there looking for his mother, not knowing what happened to her. They also spoke to a neighbour who had reported having spotted a freshly dug hole in the property earlier, but that in recent days she noticed that the hole had been filled. Investigators began digging that hole, and later that afternoon they located Jackie's body deep down inside a plastic cargo box, with brand new roofing shingles and dirt laid on top. Investigators also located a RAV4 several miles away in Barnes Mill Road, which had been towed and hidden there by Joseph. During an interview with police, Joseph admitted to killing his wife in Nashville and then driving her body roughly 70 miles to DeKalb County the next day, where he buried her remains. Authorities determined that on the 16th of December, Joseph hired a contractor to dig a burial hole which was 6 feet wide, 10 feet long and 6 feet deep weeks before his wife's death. Joseph told the contractor the large hole was intended for a burn pit. After the killing, Joseph tossed the hammer in the Keltonburg Community Centre trash compactor in Smithfield. Several days later, Joseph sold some of Jackie's possessions. He wanted to sell their DeKalb County property, but the real estate agent he tried to contact was out of town. Joseph had told his wife's children that she was terminally ill with cancer and planned to leave him. Jackie's medical provider, however, said that was not true. Police arrested Joseph on charges of criminal homicide, abuse of a corpse and tampering with evidence. At just before 3 a.m. on the 6th of January, he was booked into the downtown detention center in Davidson County, where he remains held on a $1,030,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 24-year-old Sarah Lachey Harris is behind bars after her infant daughter died from overdosing on cough and cold medication after being left home alone with a toddler sister for 37 hours while she went out clubbing. On Friday the 5th of January, Sarah was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and child abuse in connection with the child's death. At 9:40 a.m. on the 30th of July 2023, authorities responded to Sarah's home near 19th Avenue Mountain View Road in Phoenix, Arizona, after receiving a call about an infant not breathing. When officers arrived, they found an unresponsive 6-week-old infant girl laying on her back on a mattress on the living room floor. She was unable to be saved and was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators reportedly noted that the victim's head appeared sunken, and her body temperature was far colder than the temperature of the room, indicating that she'd been dead for some time. When questioned, Sarah told investigators that the infant was fussy the night before, so she gave the baby ibuprofen with a syringe and food. She carried the baby around the apartment until they lay down to sleep. She said that when she woke up on the morning of the 30th of July, she left the apartment and went to the corner market at around 8 a.m. She said that when she came back about an hour later, she had to have someone let her in the building because she had forgotten to take her keys with her. She said upon entering the child's room, she found her daughter with a blanket over her face and not breathing. She then called her parents, who called 911. Authorities obtained surveillance footage that contradicted Sarah's story about being at the apartment the previous night. It showed that she had left the apartment at 7:23 p.m. on Friday night on the 28th of July, and only returned for the first time at 9:12 a.m. on Sunday morning on the 30th of July. Surveillance footage captured at 10 a.m. on the 29th of July showed a man opening Sarah's apartment door slightly and walking away moments later. Police obtained a search warrant for Sarah's apartment and discovered a bottle of NyQuil for children 6 years and older, as well as a syringe with red liquid remnants that appeared the same colour as the NyQuil in the kitchen on top of the microwave. Investigators searched a trash can and found a baby bottle with what appeared to be white milk that had a pinkish hue to it, and red liquid in the nipple of the bottle. An autopsy determined that the infant's cause of death was from chlorpheniramine intoxication and an unsafe sleeping environment. Chlorpheniramine is an antihistamine found in medications such as NyQuil, cold and flu. During the investigation, police said they discovered text messages between Sarah and an unknown male between 11:18 a.m. and 3:22 p.m. on the 28th of July, in which a man offered Sarah money for sexual acts to be performed in a car. Sarah was seen leaving her apartment at 3:53 p.m. on the 28th of July and returning at 4:42 p.m. that same day. On the 5th of January 2024, Sarah was detained and brought to the police headquarters for interviews. During questioning, Sarah admitted to detectives that she gave her infant daughter NyQuil and melatonin in a bottle before leaving her and her toddler sister alone for 37 hours. She also confessed to taking illicit street drugs, drinking alcohol and going to a nightclub in nearby Tempe during this time. Investigators said that Sarah put the infant upright on a mattress and the toddler in the playpen before she left. She then asked a neighbour to check on her children while she was out. Sarah said that she became upset when she realised she'd been away for such a long period of time. Sarah was booked into the Maricopa County Jail with bond set at $100,000. The investigation into the matter continues. 20-year-old Connor Matthew Walker is behind bars for sexually assaulting a 2-year-old girl. Authorities said that on the 28th of September 2023, Connor raped a toddler at a licensed in-home daycare centre located at 6565 Big Creek Parkway in Palmer Heights, Ohio. Investigators said that Connor, who has a Rocky River address about 10 miles away, had been living part-time at the residence where the daycare was held during the day. The daycare operator, who's a family friend of Connor, also allowed the victim to stay overnight on the same night Connor was staying at the residence. Authorities said that Connor sexually assaulted the girl in the bathroom and recorded and took photos of the assault. Detectives believe that the daycare operator had no knowledge of Connor's activities. On Friday the 5th of January, Connor was arrested following an investigation involving both the FBI and area officers. Connor's charged with 1 count of rape, as well as 3 counts of gross sexual imposition. Authorities said that those charges alone could land him in prison for the rest of his life if he's convicted, although authorities say more charges could be pending. Palmer Heights Police Detective Eric Taylor said at this point, "We've identified 1 victim. We've reached out to all the families that were being made aware who attended the facility. If we find other victims, we'll reach out to them and handle the prosecution for them," he said. Connor appeared in Palmer Municipal Court on Monday the 8th of January and remains held at the Cuyahoga County Jail on a $500,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A 34-year-old woman is behind bars after the remains of a 4-year-old girl were found in her closet. At around 4:30 p.m. on Sunday the 7th of January, authorities responded to an apartment in the 2000 block of Johnny Lane in Greenville, Mississippi after they received a call regarding the welfare concern of 4-year-old Zaya Smith. When officers arrived, they made contact with the father of the child, Leonard Smith, who had advised that Zaya had not been seen for weeks and came to speak with a relative who was keeping the child. Police were later led upstairs where Zaya's decomposing body was found in a plastic tote in a closet. Further investigation led to the arrest of 34-year-old Patricia Hardy of Greenville. Catrice is charged with manslaughter and child deprivation and remains held at the Washington County Regional Correctional Facility. Zaya's grandmother Pamela Hall said that she and the girl's mother Nyesha Dixon hadn't seen Zaya for about 2 years and that they've been unable to get information from her father, who had sole custody. The investigation into the matter continues. A man has been convicted of murdering his girlfriend's mother. On Monday the 8th of January 2024, 41-year-old Michael Sloan Jr. pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in connection with the fire-related death of 69-year-old Suzanne Tomlinson. Michael admitted that he set fire to Suzanne's home at 523 Wood Thrush Street in Troy, Illinois, on the 22nd of September 2022, knowing that she was inside. The fire resulted in her death. Authorities said that Michael poured gasoline in Suzanne's duplex and doused her with gasoline. He also threw gasoline onto his girlfriend Courtney Tomlinson, who was 39 years old at the time, but she managed to escape and seek help. A neighbour called police after seeing their daughter running down the street. When police arrived moments later at 2:25 p.m, they saw Michael hold a cigarette lighter above his head and flick the lighter, resulting in a fireball. Michael had yelled to police that he intended to kill everyone. Flames and heavy smoke hindered attempts to get into the burning home. An autopsy revealed that Suzanne died of smoke inhalation and burn injuries. Michael was rescued from the fire and taken into custody after receiving medical treatment at a hospital. Courtney said that she and her boyfriend got into an argument about money he owed her, and when he didn't pay her, she asked him to leave, but he refused and doused her and her mother with gasoline before setting her mother and himself on fire. Michael faces up to 50 years in prison. His sentencing hearing is set for the 26th of February. Police are investigating after a 39-year-old man was fatally shot inside an apartment. At just before 7 p.m. on Monday the 8th of January, authorities responded to the apartment complex at 2332 Fort Benning Road in Columbus, Georgia on reports of a person shot. When officers arrived, they went inside the residence and found a man unresponsive with multiple gunshot wounds. He was rushed to a local hospital in a critical condition, where he was pronounced dead. The victim was identified as 39-year-old William Thomas Brown. No arrests have been made to date, and the motive of the killing is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. Three people are behind bars for fatally shooting a pizza delivery man during an attempted robbery. At around 12:50 p.m. on Tuesday the 9th of January, authorities responded to 1001 Douglas Avenue in West Palm Beach, Florida on reports of a Domino's delivery driver getting shot. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a man in a critical condition laying on the ground in the street bleeding from his neck and arm. Investigators found 3 spent 9mm casings nearby and 1 unfired 9mm bullet under his body. Officers performed life-saving measures on the victim until paramedics arrived and transported him to the St. Mary's Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead at 1:17 p.m. The victim was identified as 33-year-old Tommy Anderson III. Authorities said that the resident at the home said they received the pizza from the victim and closed the door. Moments later, the person who received the pizza heard 3 shots fired and called 911. Surveillance footage from nearby homes showed a white 4-door Honda vehicle that had a dent in the left rear door, pulling up to Tommy's car which had a Domino's sign on the roof. The driver of the Honda was seen wearing a round hockey-styled mask. Authorities put on a be on the lookout alert for the Honda, and at 4:45 p.m. that same day, Florida Highway Patrol spotted the car at the intersection of Belvedere Road and Military Trail and performed a traffic stop. Suspects 25-year-old Elijah Wingfield, 25-year-old Avianica Williams, and 29-year-old Marcus Williams were in the car and were taken into custody. During a search of the car, officers found 2 rifles in the rear seat and a black 9mm handgun under the front passenger seat. During an interview with detectives, Elijah initially told investigators he shot Tommy because the man matched the description of a person who killed one of his relatives, but later changed his story. Elijah then admitted to shooting Tommy during an attempted robbery, explaining that he needed the money because he was waiting for a paycheck he did not receive. He said that he and Marcus were passengers and Aviana was the driver. He said he recalled the car approaching Tommy's car, when Marcus said, "Look, a delivery guy, they have money, stop the car." Elijah then said, "Let's see what he's got." Elijah got out of the Honda armed with a 9mm handgun, while Marcus got out armed with an AR-15 rifle. The 2 suspects wore black ski masks and ran up to Tommy as he was walking to his car. Elijah pointed a gun at him and told him, "I ain't playing with you. This ain't a game," and Tommy put his hands up. Elijah said that Tommy then told him that he too had a weapon and started to reach for his pocket. Elijah claimed he was afraid Tommy was going to shoot him, so he attempted to fire his weapon, but the gun jammed. He cleared an unfired bullet and then shot Tommy 3 times. Tommy grabbed his neck as he fell to the ground. The 2 suspects ran back to their car, and Aviana drove them away. Later in the interview, Elijah put his head down and said, "I really fucked up my life." Marcus told investigators that he had a gun and was back up for Elijah, but did not shoot Tommy because he saw the victim did not have a firearm. While detectives questioned Ariana, she initially denied being with Marcus and Elijah at the time of the murder, but later changed her story. She told investigators that she knew both men were armed and had heard Elijah discussing how he needed to commit robberies to make money. Elijah, Marcus and Aviana are charged with first-degree murder and were booked into the Palm Beach County Jail. The trio appeared at the Palm Beach County Court on the morning of Wednesday the 10th of January, where the judge ordered them to be held without bail. Tommy is survived by his 2 sons aged 6 and 13. He worked 2 jobs to support them, and it was only Tommy's second day as a pizza delivery driver when he was fatally shot. The investigation into the matter continues. A 23-year-old woman is behind bars for fatally stabbing her 24-year-old husband during a domestic fight that happened last year. At 2:16 a.m. on the 25th of June 2023, authorities responded to a home in Lizzie Jeter Lane in Cameron, North Carolina on a domestic violence-related call. When officers arrived, they found a man unresponsive with a stab wound to his chest, piercing his heart. Officers tried to resuscitate him, providing aid until paramedics arrived. However, he was pronounced dead at 2:49 a.m. The victim was identified as 24-year-old Jose Polino. Officers questioned his wife, 23-year-old Luzice de la Fuente, who was not injured at the scene. She claimed that she stabbed her husband during a domestic fight and that she was defending herself. Investigators later determined the circumstances surrounding the stabbing did not support Luzice's explanation that the act was done in self-defense. On Friday the 5th of January, Luzice of Sanford was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and is held at the Harnett County Detention Center on a $500,000 bond. A man is behind bars following an overdose death at a motel. Investigators said that Terrell Quante, laid better of Malden, South Carolina, provided the drugs. On the 8th of October 2023, police were notified of an overdose-related death at the Stagecoach Motel at 612 East Main Street in Spindale, North Carolina. When officers arrived at the room, they found 2 victims. One was unconscious and another was deceased. The unconscious victim was treated with Narcan and transported to Rutherford Hospital, where the victim was hospitalized for an extended period of time before his recovery. Authorities said that surveillance video, interviews and other information secured via search warrant helped to identify Terrell's involvement in distributing the lethal narcotics to the victims. On Monday, the 8th of January 2024, detectives found Terrell's vehicle at the Town and Country Inn Suites at 188 Reservation Drive in Spindale and determined what room he was in and took him into custody. Terrell's charged with second-degree murder and is held at the Rutherford County Detention Center without bond. 20-year-old Alicia Owens is behind bars and is accused of killing her boyfriend's 18-month-old daughter by forcing her to ingest harmful objects. At just after 4 p.m. on the 25th of June 2023, emergency responders went to the home of couple Bailey Jacoby and Alicia Owens at 420 Electric Street in Newcastle, Pennsylvania after receiving a 911 call that a toddler had fallen ill there. When they arrived, they found Bailey's toddler daughter Iris Alfera breathing, but she had a fixed glaze and a weak response. Medics transported her to UPMC Jamison Hospital, and the city police were summoned there by hospital personnel. Bailey told police that their child was in his and Alicia's custody that weekend, and the call was made to 911 when he was at the grocery store. He told investigators that Alicia called him and said that Iris was lethargic and that something appeared to be wrong. He told the police that he left the groceries at the cash register and went home. Alicia told police that she was feeding Iris on the bed that afternoon when her arms and legs cramped up. Iris then immediately fell sideways off the bed and onto the floor, and Alicia said she saw Iris's chest collapse. She said she was a nurse in training and tried to perform chest compressions. She called Bailey and he told her to call 911. Hospital physicians reported to police they suspected Iris's injuries were the result of child abuse. Alicia and Bailey told police that Iris had vomited a few times, but otherwise seemed normal, and she was functioning, sitting, eating and playing that day before Bailey left for the store. Iris was initially treated at the UPMC Jamison Hospital, and then flown in a critical condition to UPMC Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh, where she suffered a brain bleed and hemorrhages of both retinas and was placed on life support, but later died on the 29th of June 2023. An autopsy completed the following day revealed Iris died from an acetone poisoning, causing organ failure, which officials determined she had ingested shortly before her death. Acetone is a chemical commonly found in nail polish and paint removers. The medical examiner ruled Iris's death a homicide. Months before Iris died, she was hospitalized after swallowing different objects, including more than 20 water beads, 3 button-shaped batteries and a metal screw. Authorities said that around February 2023 until June of 2023, Alicia had conducted web searches on her cell phone related to the actions that ultimately led to the child's death. She researched household items that could kill or harm a child, including water beads, batteries and nail polish. Alicia searched for phrases such as beauty products that are poisonous to kids, medication leading to accidental poisoning deaths in children, what happens if a baby swallows a battery, if your child drinks a lot of nail polish remover what happens, can sunscreen poison a 1-year-old baby, how many kids have died from eating water beads and many more. Following Iris's death, Alicia's search history included some deleted ones, such as how to pass a polygraph test, which was searched multiple times, and how to control your reaction to irrelevant questions, and have no reaction to relevant questions on the polygraph test. On Thursday the 11th of January 2024, Alicia was charged with criminal homicide, attempted homicide, aggravated assault of a child, endangering the welfare of a child, and other offences related to the abuse and death of Iris. Alicia is held at the Lawrence County Jail with bail denied. Iris's father was taken into custody and questioned, but was released after police confirmed he had no knowledge of the abuse. The investigation into the matter continues. 31-year-old Alyssa Roman is behind bars for fatally shooting her boyfriend 33-year-old Alan Kritzer and then fleeing the scene almost naked. At around 5:10 p.m. on Friday the 29th of December, authorities responded to a possible home invasion call at 7438 North 55th Plaza in Omaha, Nebraska. When police arrived, they found Alyssa Roman rushing out the back door of her residence only wearing a shirt. Officers caught up with her and took her into custody. She was exhibiting signs of excited delirium, so she was taken to a local hospital. Officers entered the residence and found Alyssa's boyfriend, Alan Kritzer, deceased in the bedroom with gunshot wounds to the neck and upper torso, causing his head to be almost off the body. Officers then located a shotgun in a separate bedroom upstairs with women's pants and underwear placed over the tip of the gun that had blood on it. Witnesses told police that Alyssa had forced her way into the home only wearing a shirt. Once Alyssa was cleared from hospital, she told investigators that Alan did not shoot himself, and that she and Alan were the only two in the home when he was killed. She was subsequently booked into the Douglas County Jail on charges of second-degree murder and use of a weapon to commit a felony. She remains held without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 69-year-old Richard Shaw, a pastor and church youth group leader from Riverton, Wyoming, is accused of molesting a young girl in Polk County, Florida. Authorities say that Richard traveled to Lakeland, Florida in December of 2023 over the Christmas holiday and spent 9 days there. When he returned to Wyoming, the Polk County victim disclosed to her mother that Richard had inappropriately touched her underneath and over the top of her clothing while he was there. The mother called and spoke to Richard, who admitted to touching the child who was younger than 12 years old. Richard is a worship leader at Under Command Ministries in Riverston, Wyoming, and works in the youth ministry area as well. Polk County Sheriff's Office detectives notified the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, who conducted their own investigation to determine if Richard had victimized any children there with whom he is in contact. Detectives learnt that Richard works at or is affiliated with other churches in the area, and further investigation by Wyoming authorities is ongoing. Detectives interviewed Richard, who told them he has an addiction to pornography, and that when he touched the Lakeland victim, he gave in to temptation. When asked during the course of the investigation, "Should we trust you with a child?" he said, "No, I wouldn't." On Thursday the 4th of January 2024, Richard was arrested in Riverton, Wyoming, and booked into the Fremont County Jail and charged with 2 counts of lewd molestation on a child under 12 years of age, and will be extradited to Polk County at a later date. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said, "We're working with Wyoming law enforcement to determine if this suspect victimized any other children there. We sincerely hope not." "This man should never be allowed to have access to children again," he said. Authorities have not disclosed how Richard knew the victim and her mother. The investigation into the matter continues. Police are investigating after a 21-year-old woman was fatally shot. At around 1:45 a.m. on Wednesday the 10th of January, authorities responded to a home along the 800 block of Greencrest Turn in Birmingham, Alabama on reports of a person shot. When officers arrived, they found an unresponsive woman laying in the driveway of a home with gunshot wounds. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The victim was identified as 21-year-old Mia Nixon. Authorities said that a preliminary investigation suggests an unknown suspect shot Mia outside a home and left the scene. There were 2 other people inside the residence when the shooting occurred. However, no one else was injured. No arrests have been made to date, and the motive of the killing is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. 24-year-old Shania Turner is behind bars for fatally strangling her 18-year-old girlfriend Tiara Horn and dumping her body. At around 5:40 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January, authorities found a deceased body in thick brush along the walking trail, just off the 1900 block of Nance Street in Houston, Texas. An autopsy revealed she died due to compression to the neck, and her death was ruled a homicide. Authorities said that Tiara's family had not seen or heard from her since Tuesday the 2nd of January, and reported her missing on Thursday the 4th of January, a day before police made the discovery. During the investigation, authorities learned that Tiara and her girlfriend Shania got into a fight. Shania believed that Tiara gave her a sexually transmitted disease, so she strangled Tiara and dumped her remains along the Buffalo Bayou Trail, where her body was found. On Thursday the 11th of January, police arrested Shania and charged her with murder. She remains held at the Harris County Jail on a $100,000 bond. Tiara's sister, Rakesha Calton, said that Tiara met Shania around the same time her mother died in 2021. Rakesha said since meeting Shania, Tiara just got off track. She said it was clear that the relationship was violent, and she often saw Tiara with injuries to her face. But she said her sister wouldn't tell her the truth about what happened when asked about the injuries, which made going to the police hard. "I can't help you if you don't tell me. We could have reported it," she said. Rakesha said that on Thursday the 4th of January, Tiara's phone pinged at Shania's apartment at McKee City Living apartment complex, just around the corner from when the body was found. Tiara's other sister, Skanisha Granville, said that she used to live with a couple and their relationship was very toxic. They used to fight and everything. She said that many of the fights centered around accusations of infidelity. "Shania used to cheat on my sister while she was in the house with her," she said. She also said that Shania was frequently violent with her sister. "She used to hit on her and beat her up and stuff, and I just had to break it up," she said. Skanisha said at one point while she was living with the couple, she said that she and Shania got into an argument over dishes, which soon escalated. "She threatened my life, yelling at me," Skanisha said. The investigation into the matter continues. 28-year-old James Tate is behind bars for fatally shooting Marvin Anthony Miller Jr. and evading police. At 2:39 a.m. on Thursday the 11th of January, authorities responded to a residence at 4720 Northwest 16th Place in Gainesville, Florida on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they entered the home and found Marvin deceased with multiple gunshot wounds. Officers received information that the suspect may be driving a silver Chevrolet work pickup truck. Officers located the pickup matching the description nearby and attempted to conduct a traffic stop. The driver, James Tate, refused to stop and fled from the officers at a high speed. Gainesville Police Department, along with the Alachua County Sheriff's Office and the Columbia County Sheriff's Office, pursued the vehicle onto Interstate 75. Officers used spike strips and the pickup eventually crashed into another vehicle in Columbia County, and James was taken into custody. No injuries were reported from the crash. James was booked into the Columbia County Jail on a charge of fleeing and eluding. His bond is set at $5 million, and he'll be extradited to Alachua County to face a murder charge. The house where the shooting took place was sold in August to Florida Beautiful Rentals. It's listed as a vacation rental and VRBO. Marvin and James were contractors and were staying at the home while renovating it when the men got into an altercation and James shot Marvin. After shooting Marvin, James chased another contractor out of the house. James then shot in his direction, striking a garage door of the home across the street. The investigation into the matter continues. A 49-year-old woman is behind bars for fatally stabbing her 69-year-old mother. At just after 5 a.m. on Tuesday the 9th of January, Authorities responded to a home on Seagull Drive in Barefoot Bay, Florida, on reports of an injured woman. When deputies arrived at the premises, they found 69-year-old Cheryl Muir deceased inside with multiple stab wounds. After collecting evidence and conducting interviews, investigators determined that on the night of Monday the 8th of January, Cheryl and her daughter 49-year-old Kelly Tinsley got into an argument and then became involved in a physical altercation. During the fight, Kelly stabbed her mother to death. Kelly was arrested and charged with manslaughter, reclassified with the use of a weapon. She remains held at the Brevard County Jail with bail set at $750,000. The investigation into the matter continues. 2 men are behind bars for dumping a woman's body in an alley after she overdosed in a motel room. At around 10:30 a.m. on Monday the 8th of January, authorities responded to a report of a dead person in an alley just south of 3564 52nd Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. When officers arrived, they discovered the body of 30-year-old Jillian Tully wrapped in a sheet with a cardboard box on top of her. Investigators determined that she died somewhere else and was dumped in the alley. Authorities said the case was initially investigated as a homicide because of where the body was found. However, after further investigation and an autopsy, led officials to determine that she died from a drug overdose. Detectives traced Jillian's last known whereabouts to the Gateway Motel, located at 4190 34th Street North in St. Petersburg, which is a few blocks away from where her body was discovered. Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri said, "It really is good old-fashioned boots-on-the-ground police work," and what detectives found was an imprint on her leg. The imprint was there on a leg from a fence, and they matched it up to a fence at the motel. It took them back to the motel, and the sheet she was wrapped in was a motel-type sheet that would have come from a motel like the Gateway. He said that Jillian was an unemployed transient with no physical address, was addicted to drugs and had an extensive criminal history. He explained that she's not a bad person. She's an addicted person who ended up doing some bad things. She ended up in trouble and ended up in the system, and ended up being transient. But it's because of drug addiction. A drug addiction is what caused it, he said. Authorities determined that on the afternoon of Saturday the 6th of January, Jillian was dropped off in the 800 block of 12th Avenue South in St. Petersburg and was last seen at the Gateway Motel at around midnight. John Yeckley, a maintenance man who was employed by and lived at the Gateway Motel, invited Jillian, who he did not know, into room number 2. Jillian had crack cocaine and fentanyl on her when she entered the room, and Jillian injected fentanyl into her arm while John smoked the crack cocaine. John told investigators that he fell asleep around midnight, and when he woke up at around 5 a.m, Jillian was on the floor dead in the motel room. Sheriff Gualtieri said that John freaked out because he had this dead woman on the floor of his room, and he had drugs in his room, as opposed to doing what he should have done, which is call the police and report it. He recruited Michael Sloan, who's a local transient, to help him get rid of Jillian's body, he explained. Surveillance footage captured the pair remove her body from the room, wrap her in a sheet and put her on a small bike cargo trailer and towed her with a bike. The men then dumped her body in the alley. John and Michael have been charged with tampering with evidence and improper disposal of a body, and are held at the Pinellas County Jail. Authorities said that John and Michael both have a history of overdosing, and that Michael was recently brought back from the dead twice at the motel in the last couple of months after deputies administered Narcan. The investigation into the matter continues. 45-year-old Seth Carnes is behind bars for fatally shooting his 74-year-old parents inside their home. At around 11:45 p.m. on Monday the 8th of January, deputies responded to 310 County Road 317 in Georgetown, Texas on reports of a shooting. Seth's 19-year-old daughter called 911 and told authorities her father had shot her grandfather. When deputies arrived at the scene, Seth exited the home with one hand up and his other hand holding a coffee mug. Seth confessed to the deputies that he shot and killed his mother, Susan Carnes, and his father, Alfred Carnes, a retired former district court judge. Seth was taken into custody. While searching the home, deputies found Alfred dead on the living room floor about 5 feet from a recliner, and Susan was found deceased in an upstairs bedroom. Both died from gunshot wounds. Alfred had injuries to his elbow, inner forearm and the left side of his rib cage. His wife had been shot in the left shoulder and collarbone. A shotgun and a spent shell was found lying in the kitchen area. Authorities said that Seth and his parents got into a disagreement, escalating into family violence and death. During an interview with detectives, Seth was asked to explain what happened, when Seth stated that he didn't really know, but that he knew he shot his mother and father. He further stated that he used a Remington 870 shotgun that was previously located next to his nightstand in his parents' converted garage where he lived. Seth said that he believed his mother was trying to put a sleeping pill in his mouth, and he did not want to take it. When detectives asked if there was any other reason as to why he shot his mother other than the sleeping pill, he stated that's it. When asked if there was a reason why he shot his father, he said, "I've been looking for something, and figured I would finish the job." At that time, Seth advised that he did not want to talk anymore, and the interview ended. Seth was arrested and faces capital murder charges. He remains held at the Williamson County Jail without bond.